Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. As an elite level runner and coach, I'm excited to introduce you to the All In Running Club. The All In Running Club exists to help you become a better runner. Whether you're a beginner, an elite runner, or anywhere in between, the mission of the All In Running Club is to give you the tools you need to find your success in running. Join today to take advantage of the 75% off yearly membership rate offer. Click the link below in the show notes to learn more. So welcome, Patricia, to the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Hi, I'm really glad to be here. How you doing, Jerry?
I am good. And so I want to let everybody know, we met through a business mastermind that I joined in August, and hearing a little bit about you through that and doing some research. And I was like, okay, I want to have you on to talk about what inspires you to help people and the way that you're doing it, because I think when I say it's a different way, it's not necessarily different from what we should be doing. It's different from what people are told to do.
Yes, 100%. So just a little quick who I am. My name is Patricia Grace. I'm a holistic wellness coach, and I'm an emotion coach, which a lot of people don't know. I've been on a healing journey and a knowledge journey for a very long time. And the reason that I do this was it's my passion, it's my calling. Because when I was young, I was 23, I got Lyme disease, and I was undiagnosed for years. And I really had to pull myself out, and I had to find my own way because nobody knew what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 years in bed and about 5 years housebound. So
Wow.
I had no other option but to figure it out. So I started on this journey, and then as time evolved, it evolved into well, I should really be helping other people on this journey, to help heal themselves. Because I mean, let's face it, when we don't have our health, we don't have anything,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it comes from my heart and it comes from my experience. And that's why I do what I do, because I really love to, I just want to have people be their best version of themselves and to feel good every day. And
Right.
people don't realize that they don't, these things that they deal with, this is not healthy, normal stuff. You shouldn't be having headaches every day or constipation every day or whatever you've got going on.
Yeah.
So, I just want to help people with all the knowledge that I've accumulated and all the certifications I've gotten and all the stuff that I've, done over the years. I'm like, I can't keep it to myself.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and so it's funny you mentioned headaches, because I don't know how many times I get asked that question. Is when's the last time you had a headache, or when's the last time you had, this or that feeling that most people associate is a normal daily or at least once a week thing. And when I tell people, I don't think I've had a headache, I can't even remember, but it's at least 7 or 8 years ago is the last
Yeah.
time I had one. And they're
Yeah.
like, what? What's going on? How did you? And I'm like, I just, I've learned the things like you have. And it's I do things differently than what everybody is supposedly told to do is the correct way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to get migraines so bad. I mean, it would
Mhm.
take me out for a day. I don't get headaches very much anymore, but if I do, I know it's a sign that I'm dehydrated and I need
Mhm.
to take a little time and a little space and make sure I hydrate really well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even though I hydrate amazingly,
Mhm.
sometimes we can still get dehydrated if we overdo it at the gym or whatever. So you just
Yeah.
gotta keep an eye on that. But I would just say check your hydration. The first thing would be if anybody's talking
Mhm.
about headaches all the time. Yeah.
Yep. Very true. And that's, that goes to, I don't know how many times I've mentioned this on the podcast, is that the majority of people are dehydrated. And that's the number one thing of
Yeah.
not understanding how to take care of your hydration, not understanding how to breathe properly. They're basic things that, but they lead to so many other issues that can pop up with our health, which we don't necessarily attribute to
Yeah.
hydration and breathing, right? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
would assume from the emotional standpoint, breathing is a big piece of that puzzle,
Yeah.
understanding how to breathe and calm yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, breathing. My understanding is from research is that people who are mouth breathers versus people who are nose breathers have a shorter lifespan. And I mean,
Yep.
substantially, it can be years, 8 years, 7, 8 years shorter lifespan.
Yeah.
So just, you know, I'm not saying to people with deviate septums and stuff like that, but I mean, you really should really try to practice and like wear those little strips at night, do whatever you got
Hmm.
to do to get those sinuses open and start being cognizant and breathing in through your nose. Because I mean, that's really where your immune system starts is you have
Yeah.
all these, layers in your sinus and you're supposed to be breathing through them and not going directly into your lungs. So it
Right.
does make a huge difference in your health.
Yep. Um, but I know that's not necessarily your forte, like you, but as far as like the emotional coach standpoint, like talk to us about like how is that? Because I know enough some of the research I've done is like what you eat plays a part in how your emotions come out and in maybe not just come out to other people, but what you're emotionally doing internally to your mind, like how you're negative talking and all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can be our own worst enemies or our own best friend.
Hmm.
So emotionally, I mean, I work with a lot of people on detoxification. So I help
Hmm.
them detoxify their body. And what I was finding, because I'm a holistic wellness coach, and I was finding that not everybody got better just from detoxifying their body. And I was
Hmm.
like, what is the missing component here? And it's like calming the nervous system down with breathing and dealing with their emotions because a lot
Hmm.
of people have inner child wounds, they have traumas, and that stuff, I mean, we're all energetic beings, so that stuff gets stored in the body.
Right.
So if you don't, and a lot of people, when they go through juice cleansing and stuff like that, emotions will come up. Some people sail through it, and some people like really struggle,
Hmm.
and then they go to that comfort food and they go to those other comforting things, whatever it might be. So, I work with people through various techniques to help them deal with their emotions, help them heal their inner children. And, that's where I found for people who weren't just getting well with the juice cleansing and the detoxification, this was like a missing component,
Hmm.
and then healing, like I said, calming that nervous system down because we just don't realize how much we're in fight or flight all the time.
Yeah.
We're just in a place of stress all the time.
Right.
And I'll just say, our lifestyle does not, it's not really conducive to that, like even
Yeah.
when you're sick, God forbid you take a day off from work and rest, like that's
Yeah.
just not, it's frowned upon, which is crazy to me. So I think just helping people get through that stuff and really seeing their own patterns of behavior and expanding their, getting those emotions that are trapped in the body. So I work with people with sensations and stuff like that to deal with the emotion, like where's the sensation in the body?
Hmm.
Where are you actually feeling that?
Right.
I mean, that's why all these things like people say, well, I have butterflies in my stomach, my heart's racing, that headache or that pain could be emotions, So I
Hmm.
just work with people to kind of release that as well as all the other things that it takes to get well. It's a journey and we're
Yeah.
going to be on it for the rest of our lives. We're always going to be growing and learning and healing, but I just want people to feel good,
Yeah.
because I know what it feels like to not feel good and have no help.
Right.
And you have to figure that out. So, and nowadays there's so much stuff out there, and I'm so excited for that. But 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. You had to go to the
Yeah.
library and look stuff up, and there I was looking
Right.
through little card files and stuff. Remember this?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but and so when you're storing stuff, like it's completely different for every person, right? Like it's not just like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
if you have this type of trauma, it's stored here in your body because it's like everybody's going to be completely different. So that adds complexity to it for somebody that's struggling and trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, do a couple sessions, get some techniques, work with me, work with somebody else.
Hmm.
A tip that I could give somebody today, like just for your inner child stuff, is just to like write letters to your inner child. Like
Hmm.
start with something as simple as that and see where that goes and where it takes you,
Yeah.
because then you're going to start digging deep and pulling back those layers of the onion to see what's really behind the emotion. Like, for example, anger. A lot of people go to anger first, and it's like anger is just a mask for all the other emotions, So
Right.
you're like, you got to take that off and say, what's beneath this?
Yeah.
Is it okay, so now I'm feeling anxious. Okay, what's beneath that? It's like a fear. So then a fear of abandonment or whatever it might be in certain people's cases. And everybody is different because what might be traumatic to you might not be traumatic to me and vice versa.
Right.
And all the things that happen to us, which might seem small, is big to somebody when they're a kid and stuff. And
Yeah.
and I guess my superpower is you know that movie, I can't remember what the name of it was, where the kid said, I see dead people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I see inner children. So that's my
Oh,
superpower.
nice.
So when
That's
someone comes
awesome.
with something, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm seeing this inner child right now. And I know that I'm
Mhm.
dealing with somebody who's like 7 or 12 or whatever. So intuitively, I do see inner children. And I think that that helps me with the work that I do to help
Yeah.
people to heal that emotional stuff. And it can be trapped anywhere in the body, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And that inner child though is that's like that's something that somebody can hide, right? Until that stressful situation comes up and then it pops up based on
Right.
like a memory that triggers like, oh, that situation's similar to this situation, and then it brings it up. And I don't know
Yes.
how to deal with that.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like a trigger, right? So you get triggered by something in your external environment or something
Mhm.
somebody said or whatever, and then you are either responding or reacting. And most of the time when you're in the trauma, you're reacting.
Right.
And you're just like reacting badly. And then you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, or I didn't, and then you feel bad about it later because that was your trigger. And then you have to just like say, okay, where did that come from? So
Mhm.
that's why I said start writing a letter in the child, like, what am I really feeling right now? Like I
Yeah.
did this today. This is how I felt. I reacted. And what is that about? And like, and ask yourself that question, why am I behaving this way?
Mhm.
And just kind of get into it and just really delve deep because
Yeah.
really it's not as bad. I mean, a lot of people avoid it with
Yeah.
feeling their feelings with like anything possible. So, I mean, this is where all the addictions are coming in
Yeah.
because they don't want to feel, because
Right.
it's just too painful. And a lot of people have been through like a lot of traumatic stuff. I hear a lot of stories. Um, and then sometimes, like nothing shocks me anymore, but
Mhm.
you do. I mean, as I'll say I'm an empathic coach,
Yeah.
empathic coach. So I have a lot of love for people, and I understand, where they're coming from, and I can feel that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like you can feel it. I can feel it in my body, what they're
Mhm.
feeling in their body, kind of thing. So it's like,
Right.
there's just a lot of traumatic things. So I would start there, just kind of look at it because you've reacted this way,
Mhm.
and ask yourself why.
Right.
So this is just one um, petal of the flower, I will say,
Right.
that I work with people is the emotional stuff, but it's a huge one. It's a huge
Yeah.
one.
And
Yeah.
so when somebody, let's say you see their inner child, right? They come to you and they're like, I don't know where to start. I'm struggling. Like,
Mhm.
and is it, would you say it's easier on a whole? I know everybody's different. Would it be easier for somebody to, okay, well, let's get you eating healthy and do the detox part first and then handle the emotions? Or do the emotions lead to like, oh, if I handle those, then it makes it easier to do the detox piece? Because the detox piece isn't easy either.
No, neither piece is easy. I think it depends. Like if I have somebody who has like serious emotional trauma,
Mhm.
then I might want to work on that first or during the detox because you don't want to
Mhm.
just let them do a detox and then not have that support.
Right.
So I would say sometimes I've suggested to people, let's do this emotional work first, and then we'll get into the juice cleanse, or we'll do them
Mhm.
both simultaneously. And then some people, like I said, sail through the detox and maybe deal with emotions later. So it really
Right.
depends on what comes up for everybody. Sometimes in the refeed, I think it's even more difficult after a juice
Oh
cleanse
yeah.
because that's when people are starting to like, they felt deprived, they feel a lot of emotions
Hmm.
coming up, they're getting their comfort food again or some
Yeah.
food to comfort them. And then they're starting, back on the path and back in the patterns of behavior that they want to change
Hmm.
and need to change so that they can grow.
Yeah. In addressing that emotional piece, no matter how big it is a
Hmm.
huge piece of having those behavior changes stick long term, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't address the behavior piece, like then it's just a matter of like basically you're doing a New Year's resolution every year in, you know, 18 days, 24 days, and then it's done. And you're like, okay, well, back to life.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I
and
mean, I will say this, people's level of self-worth, I mean, you're never going to rise higher than your level of self-worth.
Mhm.
And if you have all this emotional trauma, your self-worth is going to be lower, so
Right.
you really need to get in there and do that because once you raise that level of self-worth, everything else is going to come up with it. So that is really the basis of what I do is to help raise the level of self-worth, release the traumas. And again, all the food stuff and components to that as well. Herbs are brought in and whatever,
Mhm.
whatever needs to happen. Like I said, there's a lot of little petals on the flower. So it's definitely an individual basis.
Well, and so I did want to talk about herbs too, because as an herbalist, like that's something that I don't want to say it scares a lot of people, but I think a lot of people are just like they don't have a clue. And when you look back at 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when people were mainly living on the farm and there multiple generations in a household, and you've got the traditions passed down from grandma to granddaughter, like, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, why are all these herbs on the windowsill, and there's herb garden here, and all the different things, and it was, oh, go use this herb to treat this thing, and we've lost all of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, I mean, they'll take an herb or something in nature, and
Mhm.
then they'll try to isolate a component from that because it does work, right? So then they
Right,
try to isolate a component and make a synthetic out of it, which is never without side effects, you know? So
right.
when you take an herb, they are primarily without side effects. There's not, I mean, there are some herbs that are poisonous and you have to be careful and you can,
Sure.
take too much of something and stuff like that. And you do need to know what you're doing when you're prescribing herbs because you want to be careful if it's children and that kind of stuff and the
Right.
dosages. But I mean, it's coming from nature originally,
Mhm.
and we've lost that due to no fault of our own, let's just say. We don't
Yeah.
have to get into all the theories about it, but we've lost that.
Yeah.
And, bringing that back in, I think it does scare people. What I find interesting though is when you start to tell people, hey, take this herb. And I love for people to educate themselves. I love for
Mhm.
people to learn, I mean, a doctor could prescribe something to somebody and they'll just take it.
Right.
Without reading that pamphlet, which is like, 8 pages
Yep.
long of all the side effects and all the things that it's going to do. And maybe you need another drug to cover that drug so that you
Right.
feel good, and, to mask the symptoms, basically. So we're masking symptoms. There isn't really a cure, let's say, in a lot of
Hmm.
these things, especially when it comes to chronic disease.
Right.
Chronic disease in the body, there's really not a lot out there. And I think a great surgeon is amazing. And,
Hmm.
if someone's having a heart attack, yes, I want a doctor
Right.
to help me and stop that process. And, but beyond that, we really need to take responsibility for our own health. And
Right.
I think that so many people just give that power away,
Mhm.
and we've been indoctrinated to do that because we're like, oh, well, they went to a particular school and they know more than I do.
Right.
They do have a set of tools, and that's great, but an herbalist has a set of tools as well.
Mhm.
So I would just say keep your mind open. And if you can incorporate both together and that's your wish, then great. And if not, I would just be open to like learn what else is out there that isn't going to cause me all these side effects that might help alleviate and actually get to the root of the problem versus just
Mhm.
masking the symptoms of a problem.
Right. Um, because like you said, our cells are built around like dealing with the natural plants and the herbs and the things in nature. And when you start messing with that, in whether it's pulling in synthetics or taking pieces of that out so that you like high dose one part of it, your body goes, okay, I don't, this is different. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, then we're losing synergy, because we've
Right.
got synergy in this like curcumin or turmeric, like there's synergy in the whole.
Mhm.
So, I mean, keeping in mind that you're taking away and stripping away, it's kind of like when you're eating white rice versus brown rice, you're stripping away all the fiber, right? Like you do with the white rice, and then you're just
Right.
eating the white rice. Where with the brown rice, you've got all the fiber, it slows down your digestion, it helps feed the microbiome. So it's kind of the same thing. If you're taking away the synergy and just pulling out one component, it's not going to be the same. It's just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So I do have to tell you about a program I've got coming out
yeah,
on February
please do.
1st, if you want to hear about
Yeah.
that. So I've started a new program and I'm really excited about it. It's called Gut Health Restoration. So it's
Oh.
basically a 40-day program, and it's transform your gut, transform your life in 40. It's a 40-day intensive program.
Mhm.
So I think that people forget that 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our digestive
Right.
tract.
Yep.
So when you're healing that, like I said, through this is for anybody. I mean, like you can have any kind of issues. People who just want to refeed after a juice cleanse,
Hmm.
people who have constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, colitis, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, issue you have, you can take drastic steps and drastic measures within 40 days to really get to the the root of the issue and
Hmm.
to diversify the microbiome and increase and help strengthen your immune system.
Right.
Yeah, so it's going to be me. I am a certified holistic wellness coach,
Hmm.
and it's 40 days of exclusive access. We're going to have a Telegram app where people can reach me. I want
Oh,
to say
nice.
24/7, but during business
Right.
hours.
But
I mean,
yeah,
if
yeah.
if you're really in an emergency, then I'm
Right.
there. But it's going to be a private Facebook group with a community of people. There's going to be a weekly Zoom meeting, so it's going to be face-to-face time with me as your coach.
Nice.
And there's going to be instant access. I created three really cool things. So one is the microbiome rebuilding guide,
Mhm.
and the other one is understanding the vagus nerve, and the
Ooh,
other one is fermented food recipes. So I've come up with a little fermented food recipe book and these two other PDF guides. So as soon as people sign up, they're going to have access to all of that. There's
right.
going to be an action plan for refeeding and rebuilding the microbiota, which I know nowadays is a huge buzzword, but it is so important
Oh,
to
yeah.
take care of our gut health and to really try to diversify that. And that's what I'm all about, is trying to help people do that. There's going to be we're going to start a little herb garden. Even if it's on the windowsill, we're going to do a little
Right.
windowsill garden. I'm going to introduce people to a journaling protocol, which is going to
Ooh,
improve their mental and physical health. So,
right.
like I said, I'm incorporating a little bit of that mental stuff and the emotional
Yeah.
stuff because it's going to come up.
Right.
There's going to be techniques to regulate your nervous system. There's going to be accountability and community support, and just connecting with like-minded people who are also walking through it and doing
Right.
and learning. We're all going to be learning together and growing
Right.
together. So,
Right.
so I have a link that you can put out there. It's on my
Yeah.
website. It's also going to be on Raw Vegan Heroes website, so people can sign up either way.
Cool.
And it's going to be 40 days intense gut restoration. So I'm super excited about that. I've been working really hard for like 6 months putting the program together.
Nice. And
Yeah.
so let me ask you, because 40 days, why 40 days? Like, is there a
It takes about that amount of time to really start to, I mean, you can change things within days, like
sure.
as you've done
Yep.
stuff, but it really does take a little bit more time to create a habit.
Mhm.
It takes, I think it's, what do they say, 30 days to create a habit. So it's
Yep.
30 days to create a habit. It's also, and we're changing our body. And that's not really something that you need to rush, So I
Right.
like to put, I mean, it can go longer, and my goal is that people will continue this when they finish the
Sure.
40 days and they have that habit now, and they've got all the tools that they need in their arsenal. So, like I said, I'll be there to answer all questions, but I think it just works out. Like 30 days doesn't always seem like enough. 60 days might
Right.
be too much for people, but I think everybody can do the 40 days and really, really get to the level that they need to get to.
Right. Well, and I think that like there are certain things that yes, you can heal like if you go very drastic. But I also know that like from doing this for so long that like there's very few people that can make that big of a drastic change in their, especially their eating behavior
Yeah.
in like 2 or 3 days. Like your body could definitely recoup from it and feel better and start regenerating and but that habit, like, and mostly it's the people that have had that massive heart attack or that huge wake up call that go, oh wait, no, I need to change now. And those are the people that are successful with that. But otherwise, yeah, it does take time, not necessarily for the body to heal because it can heal quickly, but it's that emotional mind part.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I said, that's why I'm bringing in the emotional support and stuff
Yeah,
too. We're going to have this one giveaway, and basically that's going to be an emotion code session with me. So that's going to be one of the things when I'm doing a little contest in there, and it's going to be like about diversity. So people can
cool.
sit there and like we're going to mark it down, and whoever's got the most diversity and kind of really does all the work is going to win the contest to do an emotion session,
Yeah,
even though I'll be talking about stuff like that with the group. So
sure,
yeah. Yeah,
sure.
it does take time. I mean, I think the biggest misnomer is that people think they're going to do a 40-day juice cleanse and then they're done,
Yeah,
or a 30-day juice cleanse and then they're done. And they're like, oh, okay, I should be healed by now.
right.
And it's an ongoing journey. And, the longer that you work on it, the better you're going to feel. And the
Yeah,
more you're going to grow emotionally. And like I said, we're going to start working on some of those inner child wounds and all that kind of stuff as well. So
Yeah.
it's going to encompass a lot. Like I said, it's going to be an intensive, yeah,
Yeah.
intense 40 days, but it's going to be amazing.
Well, and I think that's great because it's there are things that like can trigger, and like I mean, gluten's one that a lot of people have heard about and talked about, and
Yeah,
whether people believe it's gluten or it's the glyphosate or whatever it is about the wheat plant, but there've been documented trigger that it can take 30 days for that to rebalance and your
get out
intestine
of your
to
system.
overcome and everything. And so that's what I one of the things that I laugh when somebody tells me like, oh, I just do a cheat meal every 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, well, you're never really healing if that's part of your cheat meal.
Right.
Like there's always a disruptive piece in your body because you never get past the 30 days point to
Right. Because
get
you might
over it.
be something that's creating inflammation and you're just starting to heal that inflammation, and then you're bringing it back in.
Right.
As far as gluten goes, I mean, I find it so interesting, and I'll touch on glyphosate a little bit. I don't know if people realize that when they are drying wheat, for example, the faster way to do it is at the very end, instead of waiting it for it to dry naturally, is they're going to spray the whole field with glyphosate and like really
Right.
saturate it. So that's going to dry it down really quickly because it's basically killing the plant, right? So you're just
Right.
going to, and they've said, well, we don't kill the plant, but in the end, they actually do. So they're
Right.
going to spray the heck out of it with the glyphosate. And like, how do you think that's not being absorbed into the wheat in
Right.
this example? And then you're eating that and you're putting
Yeah.
that in your body, and then you're not going to feel good. And I have people with all kinds of symptoms. Some people don't get like a celiac kind of thing, they get
Mhm.
tired, or some people get really irritable, you
Yeah.
know, and this can be from gluten and glyphosate, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
So it's not only devastating to the planet, but it's devastating to you,
Right.
you know. And the only way I think that we can change the collective is by starting by changing ourselves first.
Mhm.
We have to really, like they said, the work starts at home. It starts with me. So
Right.
it starts with me, it starts with you, and then we can spread it from there. So
Yep.
yeah.
Um, and it really is all tied to what you put in your body, whether it's
Hmm.
food or what you're absorbing through your eyes or what you're listening to. Um, because that that collective, if the majority of it's negative in how it impacts your body, then the output's going to be not really what you want.
Right, right. I mean, we can touch on like the Holocaust going on for animals on this planet right now.
Mhm.
If you're taking, and I'm a vegan, as are you,
Yep. Yep.
if you're taking in these products, and that's what they are. They're just
Yeah.
man-created products so that we
Yeah.
can consume them. You're taking in the fear, the
Mhm.
anxiety, the cortisol, the adrenaline, all the hormones that they've been shot up with, all the antibiotics they've been, sprayed all over them so they
Right.
can stay disease-free, which they don't.
Yeah.
And then you can't put that into your body without absorbing all of that pain.
Mhm.
So you're bringing in more pain just from eating animal products. So that's
Right.
just one way, right? And
Yeah.
then, like you said, it's what we're putting in our minds, what we're watching, what we're listening to, what we're absorbing in every way, not
Yeah.
only what you're putting in your mouth, right? So it,
Right.
it starts with all of that. But I mean, I remember years ago, I was listening to somebody, I can't remember her name, she's a politician's wife, and she was talking about, you know, what we're listening to. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, that's ridiculous. And now I'm like, it's true though.
It is. Yeah.
But it's like surrounding yourself with people who are uplifting, inspiring. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be the
Right.
dumbest person in the room because I want all those other people to help me bring me up to another level.
Yeah.
So I think that the people you surround yourself with, the habits that you have, we're all trying to, well, I'm not saying we're all, I'm trying to be the best version of myself and constantly grow and learn.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, well, what do you know? Like, I don't know any, I know less. The more I know, the less I understand. I mean, I
Right.
really, because I feel like there's so much to learn, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm excited to learn it and I'm excited to share what I've learned. But
Yeah.
yeah, what you surround yourself and the people you surround yourself, what you put on your skin, what you put in
Mhm.
your mouth. I mean,
Yeah.
people don't think about that too. I remember once I got a magnesium lotion, and this is something that's healthy, right? And put a little bit.
Sure.
And I was just sitting there and I was like, I need to moisturize, and I need to moisturize all over. And I put it all over It was
Oh yeah.
way too much overload of magnesium. And then I was
Yeah.
like, and my thyroid was kind of like irritated and like puffed up. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I threw my balance off so
Right.
severely by just putting some cream on that I bought at the health food store over the counter.
Right.
So knowing the synergy and the balance of all these things in the body, and then, like I said, it's changing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's that, it's what's interesting is that like since I've been vegan for several years, but raw vegan for a year, and like the longer that I've been, like the less I've used sunscreen. And I'm in the sun all the time.
Yeah.
And like people ask me, and like, yeah, I did have a sunburn last year, but it was literally I was in the boat. We have a boat. I was in the boat on the lake for 8 hours. Okay,
Right.
well that's excessive.
Long
I didn't put
time
anything
in a
on.
boat,
Like,
especially with the water reflecting.
right,
Yeah.
like okay, so okay, I got sunburn. Um, but other than that, like I can be outside for 2, 3 hours and never get sunburned.
Yeah.
And in the past, it would be sunscreen every hour at minimum, like spraying it
Right.
on. But then you start to read what's in it, and it's like it not only the stuff that's in the mainstream sunscreen is
Mhm.
bad, but even if you try and get a healthy one, like you said, if you put too much on, then like you're still going to be out of balance. And
Yeah.
so you may get a little bit of protective piece from it, but the thing that I found was just super interesting is that like my skin is by providing what it really wants in plants in the correct balance of nutrients, like it's developed its own layer to protect me.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, your skin is your biggest organ,
Mhm.
and it's there to help detoxify you and it's there to help you sweat and to get the toxins out of your body.
Right.
So I also do not use sunscreen. I mean, if I'm going to be at the beach for a long period of time, I mean, it's funny because I would burn. I was like, I had two shades. It was white or red, like I was a
Hmm.
lobster or I was, and
Right.
I don't anymore. I mean, I don't, I will bring an umbrella or something like that and, use my, but I mean, it's important to get those light rays in your eyes. It's important to get it
Right.
on your skin. And I don't think there's any, maybe there's some organic ones or something, but I don't really think there's any healthy sunscreen. I don't think there's any need for it actually. And
Right.
it's funny because I think my color has changed a little bit. I'm a little more tan than I used to
Hmm.
be. And I'm very like pale person, or always have been.
Yeah.
But I mean, people would say to me like, "Oh, you look tan or tanner," in the summer. And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I don't need it. I just don't need it anymore."
Yeah.
So it's amazing that the changes on so many levels, including in iridology, when your eyes change a little bit of color
Mhm.
and you can see the effects that your diet's having
Yeah.
in your eyes, it's pretty amazing.
Well, and that was one more thing I wanted to touch on because you have that on your website about the differences and changes in your eyes and like being able to and it is something that my wife and I we absolutely 100% can see in our son. Like he's got black eyes, so it's like you can't really see his iris, but you can 100% tell when he's not feeling well based on like just his eyes. Like cover everything else up, just look at his eyes, and you're like, you don't feel well, right? Like
Yeah.
it is the window to what's going on. Um,
Yeah, it is.
and so
Yeah.
how does that help you as a coach, like looking at that and going like, okay, well, maybe somebody's not being 100% honest with what's going on because they're still struggling with their own ability to figure out what's going on. But you can see like, oh no, there's issues because of what you see in there.
Yeah, I will use that when it comes to so there's different levels of dis-ease that you can see in the eye.
Mhm.
So it's like acute, chronic, and degenerative, and you can see what level maybe a particular organ is associated with a certain area, and you can
Mhm.
see maybe the adrenals are really at a degenerative level. So then I'm like, they might need some herbal support in this area. So I'll use that in people to try to help support the glands
Mhm.
um, to get them where they need to be. But I also find it encouraging because if they've done an iridology reading and then they do another one 6 months later, a year later, you can actually see improvement. And it really helps people, I mean, we all want to hear like we're doing great, like,
Right.
hey, look at the improvement because now I don't see that as degenerative. Now I see it as acute. It's more white
Mhm.
versus yellow versus brown versus black, so
Mhm.
now like we've lifted that and you can actually see the physical evidence of it. So it does help me to because I have a whole questionnaire, that I do
Hmm.
with people, and I break it down into what's going on with them. And it's about 8 pages. And I know people resist doing it. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't have time to fill it out before. I'm like, well, you're going to have a better session with me if you actually fill it out and I have more information about you and I
Yeah.
can go over all that stuff. And then we can do a neurology reading. But
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see, just like in Chinese medicine, where all these things correlate in the body. And I mean, they really are, your eyes are definitely the window to your body and to your soul. Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that I hadn't really thought of from the health perspective.
Mhm.
Um, like, and so it's definitely going to be something that I start looking more in
Yeah.
directly into people's eyes, especially when they're one of my clients, to be like, okay, what do I see? Do I see health? Do I see vibrance? Do I see an issue?
Yeah.
Um, in because I think we've all seen people that are unhealthy and seen like we can see it in their eyes. You can see it.
Yeah.
Not just an acute illness, but like the chronic illness. You can see that there's something different.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it is. And you mentioned Chinese medicine. The more and longer I get into my health journey and trying to help other people, I'm like, the more that ancient traditional Chinese medicine to that that side of what's going on. And so when I look at it now, I look at like, okay, well, if I'm going to a doctor for something, sort of like you said earlier, like if it's a heart attack or I need a bypass surgery, I'm looking for the absolute best surgeon I can find.
Hmm.
But if it's something chronic, then I'm like, I want to know, well, first off, I would stop by somebody like you and me, but then like, okay, well, if I'm going to a doctor because there's still something there, how much does the doctor believe in and rely on the traditional side of medicine versus how much are they looking at the current model of medicine with the pharmaceutical base of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen in my years in journey, I've seen everybody and done everything and tried everything.
Yeah.
So I've seen shamans, I've seen Chinese medicine doctors, I've done acupuncture, I've done, and I think that there is definitely um something to all of it,
Hmm.
and these traditional ways and that kind of stuff. But not everything works for everybody. And
Right.
so, if you can kind of hone in, like I said, talk to yourself, talk to myself and say, okay, like this has been my experience with these type of things. Did that work? Like
Hmm.
acupuncture, I think is great for pain. It's also great to relax the nervous system and that kind of stuff. But did it work for my particular issue? It did not.
Yeah.
It's not putting that down. As
Right.
far as Chinese medicine goes, I went to a guy who was trained in China and then also, practiced in the States. And I got really, really sick doing
Oh,
that
wow.
because this is before I was an herbalist,
Hmm.
and herbs that were being put together, you know, they were just, they were dehydrating me.
Hmm.
And I was like, and I had said, well, I looked up a couple of them because some of them had names. I had no idea what they were.
Yeah.
It's like, but it says this one is dehydrating. He's like, no, but the synergy, and I know. And I'm like, but I'm telling you, my body right now, like
Right.
I had to pour myself in the car and I was like really not well. So I had been doing the herbs 3 times a day as instructed and all that kind of stuff. So you just really need to really focus in on what's working for you, what's working for
Hmm.
your body. Everybody is different. I'm
Right.
not saying that there's not great Chinese medicine doctors and they have a lot of knowledge to share,
Mm.
but you do have to be careful because you can't let somebody convince you or talk you into like, well, I know better. Like
Right.
you're not in my body, so you
Right.
can't be having my experience. You have to really be tuned into your clients and stuff like that. So,
Right.
so yeah, it was an interesting, I think it was like 6 months I did that for, just to
Hmm.
try it out. And it didn't work for me, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it won't work for other people for
Right.
other issues. But for the chronic stuff that I was dealing with and with the nerve damage. And one of the symptoms of Lyme is having low blood volume. So if you've already got low blood volume,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really easy to dehydrate yourself.
Yep.
So I was dehydrated and I wasn't diagnosed. So he was just going based on symptoms, right?
Mm.
And
Right.
then my symptoms, hey, there was one point where there was a modulator. So there's modulators, and one of the modulators, which is basically more about balance,
Hmm.
was fantastic for me. And I was like, this is working really well. But his thing was to switch it up every week. And I was like, but we
Oh,
should say what's working here. Why are we putting me
right.
to this one? Which was then like the demise. I was like, this
Yeah.
is not good and I'm dehydrated. So
Yeah.
so it's just, it's a delicate balance and everybody, although we have so much similarities, everybody's different.
Right. Well, and I think you hit on a really key point is that like there are many different things that can work
Mm,
for different people. But if you're not listening to your body, it's similar to, if you go to the doctor and just trust them because they're the doctor, but
right.
it's not helping you feel better, like you need to go to another doctor, you need to go to another avenue, a different way of going it. And I remember seeing something, I can't remember last year or the year before, about second opinions, doctors giving second opinions and whether you should go get a second opinion. And it was
Mhm.
like 60% of the second opinions are going to be different from the first one.
Right. Isn't that amazing though?
And so it's like, okay, wait. So if you only go with the first opinion, like
Yeah.
60% of the time, you're going to have potentially something completely different
Mhm.
to go and say, and of course, that's not for like broken bones or things. This is for chronic issues that,
Yeah.
and so it's like, should you get a second opinion? Absolutely, you
Mhm.
should. Um, whether it's from another doctor or from somebody else who's learned it in the way that you're dealing with the issue. Um, but yeah, it's finding those people that can help you and making sure that it helps that you feel the difference. Like
Right.
that's a big piece of it. Because if you don't feel the difference, if you don't feel healthier, if you feel worse, like, you know, and now granted, I'll say that with saying also like, okay, well, if you're going to start a detox, you're probably going to feel worse for a couple of days before you feel better.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so there is
There's the
that window
Herxheimer
in there.
reaction. Yeah, the Herxheimer reaction
Yeah.
it's a real thing, and you can feel worse before you feel better, and
Right.
that is natural and normal,
Right.
but to a degree, right? Just like
Yeah.
everything else. So, but I
Yeah.
think being in tune with your body, and I think so many people are not in tune with their body,
Right.
and I think that just that level of not being healthy and just thinking that that's normal, like you're going to
Right.
wake up every day achy or tired or this or that, and that's not how you should feel,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It's not just, oh, I turned 40, so now my body's going to fall apart. So I just have
Right,
to
like it's
accept
just,
it.
oh, it's just old age. Like maybe it's not, because I mean, there's tons of people out there who are like living their best life and they're in the
Yep.
gym and they're 80 and they're doing their thing. And it's about the quality of the life,
Right.
not just the longevity of the life. Like I want to make sure that my quality is there when I'm 80. I
Right.
want to be able to be going to the gym and doing all that stuff that I like to do and running
Right.
around and being myself.
Yep.
I don't want to be sitting at home and having, to be shuffling across the floor and not being able to and microwave myself a meal and,
Right.
not really enjoy my life. What's
Right.
the point then?
Yep. Well, or to be like, my wife's grandmother, who is 92 or 93.
Hmm.
We saw her over the holidays, and she says it almost every time we see her now. She's something to the effect of, "Oh, it sucks getting old. Just don't get old. Just you don't want to get old." And I'm like, really? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. What's the
but
alternative, right? Don't get all of the,
right, like,
so yeah. So I think that that's just a reminder, like you said, like, okay, we can say, okay, let's get old with, let's feel good when we're old. So
right,
what can I do to make that rest of my life the best of my life? What
right,
can I do that I'm not going to be feeling bad like hey, look, she's 96 though. I mean, like
yeah,
you got to give her credit though.
yeah, yeah.
She's
I mean,
she's gone past the average lifespan,
right,
which actually went down this year
yeah,
in the United States. That was the first time in a really long time that the
yeah,
lifespan has actually gone down. So I mean,
yeah,
that speaks volumes.
right, yeah.
We're
It
doing
does.
we're doing something wrong here if that's what's
Yeah.
going on.
But
And
it's also, speaking of age, it's also like making a change like this is not something that's necessarily age restrictive, right? Like you can do it in your 30s, you can do it in your 70s. Like whenever you decide, like I need to make this change, like you can still benefit from any positive change.
oh, absolutely. Every positive change. I mean, and it's a stacking thing. I mean, you're just going to
Hmm.
start, building up all this momentum and stuff. So I mean, like if you
Right.
start going to the gym or you start going for walks, if you're a little older and you just start walking every day, get out for a
Right.
half hour, an hour and start walking, everything is going to be, cumulative and bring you to another level of health. And then you're just going to want to do more because you're like, hey, this
Yep.
is good. I want more of that. I want to feel
Right.
better. I want more of that.
Yep.
And that's the thing that I think that a lot of people they don't understand that side of it because they're so, and I know part of it is like they're afraid to make the behavior changes and, you know, and do without maybe something that's part of their life, or whether it's a comfort thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you just start, like it breeds its own like momentum if you just get going.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the gym this morning and I love the little thing on the wall and it was like 1% better every day. Right. So
Hmm.
if you just like 1% better every day, like imagine your trajectory,
Right.
you know, is just going to take off. So, I mean,
Yeah.
just those little things like drinking more water every day or whatever, like sitting and writing those letters to your inner child, working on
Mhm.
the emotional stuff, working on the physical stuff, what you're putting in your mouth and your body, what you're putting on your body. Like I tell women, I think on Women's Day, I put out a little video and I was like, really pay attention to the things that you're putting on your body, like as women, because we put a lot more products on than men. And
Right.
just those, like, start there. Like, if you're going to Ulta Beauty, I might change that up a little bit and say, okay, where can I get more organic products? Because I don't want to
Right.
be putting the amount of chemicals that are unregulated that you're putting in your body and on your skin, it's going right into you
Hmm.
and then it's going into your cells and then that's what you're building yourself out of is these
Right.
chemicals and toxins and we're inundated with this stuff,
Oh yeah.
between the air and the water and the and it's
Hmm.
overwhelming. So it's like just start one place, say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to just improve the water quality that I'm going to have today and I'm going to get a water system or something in my house,
Yeah.
or I'm going to go start at the gym, I'm going to start walking, I'm going to do any one thing
Right.
and just start that trajectory of change. And in a year from now, it'll be an amazing transformation and you're
Oh
just
yeah.
gonna yeah, you're just gonna continue that, that trajectory because I mean, like I said, I want those years to be, I want to be energetic, I want to be strong, I don't want to
Hmm.
be, I don't want Alzheimer's, I don't want, all these diseases that I mean, you mentioned doctors and second opinions and stuff like that. I believe it's the fourth leading cause of death in the United States is from medical mistakes.
Right.
Medical,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. Yep.
So there can be mistakes in the holistic world as well, and you just have
Oh
to be
sure.
careful who you're working with, but you have to be in tune with your body and you've got to be your own advocate. I think that's
Right.
super important is to advocate for yourself, if you're
Yep.
going down that path, or even in a holistic path, you have to advocate for yourself. So if something, you give it a certain amount of time, if it hasn't done anything for you in 6 months, then maybe you need to change things up, or
Right.
maybe you need to hit it harder, and you need to take that, to another level. So I think there's so much out here now that people can utilize. I would say not a New Year's resolution, but a New You resolution.
Right.
Just put something towards what am I doing today? Just one step to be a better version or the best version of myself. You know, like
Yep.
now I'm meditating 2 hours a day in preparation to go to a Joe Dispenza event at the end of February into March.
Oh
And I've been
cool.
wanting to do it for a really long time. Now I've meditated before, but not to
Yeah.
this intensity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just about opening my heart and just like, just letting in all that love and having the brain heart coherence.
Right.
And it's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been really amazing. So I'm really trying to amp up because I know there's like a 4 hour pineal gland meditation at the event. And I'm like,
Oh
wow, four
wow.
hours in one shot. That's a lot,
That's
right?
a lot. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all about growth. And I really love to see myself grow and then to help other people grow into just a happier, healthier version.
Right.
That's what we're all here trying to like be the best versions and like you and I and that kind of stuff. That's just our path now. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it becomes who we are.
No, it does. And it's funny because people ask me, like, oh well, especially new clients when they're coming like, okay, when can I call you? When can I talk to you? I'm like, anytime. Like I'm like,
Right.
and they're just like, oh, but you need time away. I'm like, no, but this is who I am. Like this is who I
Right.
am as the person that helps you with your health, and it's not something that is a hindrance to me or is a bothersome to me,
Right.
um, because it's just like it it's it's so much needed information that needs to get out to people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so one person at a time, and just checking it off, and that little ripple effect that hopefully it just continues to build and build as it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I think that ripple effect is super important. I mean, I get people reaching out to me, like somebody reached out, like, do you have a fat-free dressing recipe? And I'll give it to them. Of
Mhm.
course, yeah, I do.
Right.
I have one, and I'm going to share it after this when I have a moment.
Yeah.
Then it's somebody else reaching out to me, like I've been posting some workout stuff on my Instagram, I work out every other day.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I feel so inspired. I'm like, well, that's awesome, right? Because
Right.
I'm putting out stuff. It's of value, hopefully, to somebody. It's free
Right.
stuff. I'm not an expert on that, but I'm
Right.
learning,
Yeah.
and I'm growing, and I want to be, more knowledgeable in it. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, hey, you got a dog too?
Yes, I do.
Mine's out
Um,
the door crying.
yeah. Website again. So how can
It's
people?
raisedvibes.com.
Okay.
And on Instagram, I'm at raised_vibes.
Okay.
And the new Transform Your Gut, Transform Your Life program is on my website under the services tab.
Okay.
And it starts February 1st. And
Cool.
people can sign up now, or they can, I would just say sign up now so you get it done.
Right.
But yeah, they can sign up now. And if they have any other questions, they can certainly message me and ask me. I'd be happy to answer them. But I think it's like you said, it's just going to be a beautiful trajectory into strengthening the immune system, healing those gut issues. Because I mean, I don't know anybody who's eating a standard American diet who doesn't have gut issues, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's that is the biggest chronic thing.
that is.
And the two top killers of people in this country is heart disease and diabetes. And
Right.
both of these can be prevented
Right.
unless there's some like issue with your heart, like a valve or something. But I mean, these can be prevented through diet.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do that? Why
Right.
would you put yourself on the trajectory to hell when you can put yourself on the
Right.
trajectory to heaven, right?
Yep.
So,
Exactly right. So, well, cool. Well, I will link those all those links in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything else that like a last bit of wisdom or nugget that you'd like to share with everybody?
I think just to, and this is totally off the track, but just to
Sure.
be your authentic self
Mm,
and to try to, if you're your authentic self, I think that's going to be the most important thing to attract people. Come from a place and a space of love
mhm.
and give people the benefit of the doubt,
Ooh,
and try to see that maybe their emotions or reactions aren't really about you and don't take everything personally. So,
mhm.
I mean, that's my favorite book is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and don't take anything personally because most of the time it really isn't about you.
Very true. Very true. So,
I'm not sure how much wisdom that is, but there you go.
no, that's great. That's great. So, thank you so much, Patricia, for being on.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it and much love.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.